to questions rather than just talk at everybody this morning. Every year we do talks, and we've got a screen up there, and I run through things, and often we never give enough time for questions. So we're here to talk about medical. Of course, if there's something else on your mind at the end and you want to talk about it, please feel open to discuss or ask questions. As we know, the medical cannabis, we've come a long way, especially in the last 10 years, and Australia itself is still moving slow, but we're getting there. Myself, I've been using medical cannabis as a medicine since about '99. I started using cookies for pain relief and to sleep, as I was seriously ill there for about 9 years. And from there it's just been a great experience for me, learning more and more about the plants and of course other herbs as well. And along the way, moving from being a personal trainer, powerlifter, bodybuilder, to a herbalist, nutritionist and healer, and just finding my journey to serve has given me great blessings. And there's great things happening in the world of medical cannabis and cannabis itself, of course. We know that we get great pain relief from medical cannabis. It's a great cancer fighter, especially used in combination with other herbs and right nutritional guidelines. Has anybody here at the moment got anything that they would like to ask in regards to the medical side of cannabis? There's lots of doctors out there, there's lots of great talks over the weekend, but you may not get a chance to ask questions as we move along. The numbers get bigger, the hall gets quite busy. No one's got any questions at the moment? No? I'll just keep firing away talking.
Yeah, I've got a question, mate. With,
yes, sir.
With like pain relief and things like that, if you touch stuff, do you still get the high, or is it if you take a medical marijuana, do you still get the high, or is it just really act on the pain?
Well, it depends on what you take, sir. So if we're talking about nerve pain, CB1 receptors are predominantly in the brain and the nervous system. So if you've got headache, severe pain, like say from a back break, neck break, nerve pain, maybe a vertebrae damage, then the CB1 receptor is the one that we want to target, which is THC. So it is an active compound that will give you that side effect of, you know, if you have enough of it, you're going to feel like you've had half a dozen wines, you know. But then if we're targeting, you know, different pains, say you've got inflammation in one of the organs, say the liver, which is pretty much split down the middle with CB1 or CB2 receptors, then we might use both, you know. And of course with children we have to be very careful. But CBD is great for inflammation and pain. It really, the further that we go along with it and the more experience I've had with it, I had my thoughts, and amongst our team we would often talk and communicate and share. I found that, you know, for pain, THC really is the big winner. That's just being truthful, you know. CBD also is good. It is good, but often we'll need to combine them both. And if you've got extreme pain, you know, say internal pain, organ pain, then I'll often prescribe suppositories. The absorption is really great, provided that they're made, you know, right. It also comes down to, I guess, when we're talking about all herbal medicine, how I see herbal medicine is that if I grow it organically and I process it organically, then it's pretty pure. The thing that we've got to be careful of now is that big pharma's got hold of it, and some companies are doing the right things and some companies aren't. So when we, and that's a big thing. So you might go to one doctor and get you know, this brand of medical cannabis, and you get nothing out of it. But then you might say go back to the doctor or go to a different doctor, and he might put you on something else, and you'll find, hey, hang on, I felt something with that. It often can be the compound and how it's not only structured, but what's actually the plant has absorbed. So when we start doing different practices and using chemicals, and we don't only just change the let's easily say the ingredient in the compound, but we also change the frequency of the plant. And when we change the frequency of the plant, then we're really talking about the greatest change of anything living. Everything living and breathing, we vibrate totally with the plants and the earth. And I'm not just saying that. I had a Kundalini awakening about 3 years ago here in Nimbin. And if anyone is aware, that's the highest connection to spirit that we have, being a yogi. And you know, through that process, I become the trees and the plants. And it sounds a little bit out there, but I just felt the vibration of the planet and the earth. And that's something that we don't touch on enough with cannabis, especially back to being the organic plant, whether you smoke it or whether you make medicine. The purer form that we have, the more in touch with ourselves and spirit that it brings us, and I truly believe that. And you don't need to take a big dose of medicine to feel the vibe, even if you just have 1 drop or 2 drops a day. It's going to, because I believe all of our plants carry energy, whether you want to call it spiritual or just energy. These plants have been here for forever, and we've been vibrating with them, whether we know it or not, for thousands and thousands of years. And on a medicinal sense, I mean, medical cannabis, or cannabis itself, when we use it in conjunction with other herbs, like all herbal medicine, using the right compounds together, we can get a synergistic effect where we amplify that plant, you know? Yeah. So, the learnings at the moment, I mean, a lot of the medical cannabis, I guess, testing that's going on, unfortunately they're going to find out that pulling different compounds or cannabinoids out of a plant and then testing that cannabinoid for cancer, they're only seeing about a 7% recovery, which is still better than chemo. But when you use a whole plant and the right growing, the right making of the medicine, and you use it in conjunction with, you know, more natural therapies, the right diet, the right compounds, then I think, you know, I can't really say where we're at, but it is quite high. Quite high. Yes, darling? Yes. Right, it's a good question. It's really hard and really confusing.
Please repeat the question because on the mic, Zane.
Okay, so the question is there is a confusion out there with the strength of the medicine. What strength do we take for what? What medicine's better than the other? And, you know, to be honest, I can't tell you what medicine's better than the other. I really can't. But what I can tell you is that every time that you go to the doctor, ask more questions if you're going to go along that way to get medical cannabis. Where is it grown? Can you show me test results? Do they use chemicals? Do they, you know, is it full, are they using herbicides and pesticides? Have you got lab results?
Would you recommend something like to, you know, to start off with, like someone, if you're just starting someone off with it,
yes.
would you recommend just a normal dose or a 10 times dose or
depending on what we're treating. So the gentleman's asked, what dosage do we start at? So depending on what we're treating. So if say you come to me and you've got lung cancer, well, the lungs are very high in CB2 receptors, so we increase the CBD levels, which is that interact with the CB2 proteins and receptors.
And what is CBD, mate?
So CBD, there's many cannabinoids in cannabis, you know, but predominantly at the moment, the two big ones are CBD and THC. Okay, so THC is a psychoactive compound. CBD, as long as it's raw, won't really do anything to you psychoactively. It will relax you. It will balance chemistry in the body. It is great for balancing the chemistry in the body. Incredibly great for anxiety, depression, PTSD, a multiple of things. What are you asked about pain? Was it pain that you're wanting mainly?
Yeah.
Like pain management?
Yeah.
Pain management.
Is it extreme pain?
Yes.
Okay. Then what I would suggest is we can have a talk after here. I'm going to be in the tent next door for consultations or talks if you want to do that. Depending on what the pain is and how we target it, but we can go deeper and further into that. You don't want to start off taking, your other question was how do you take it, how do you start off with? So any medical cannabis that you use, all those questions that I've said before, where and when and how and chemicals and all that. The doctors, like myself, we're just all learning. There's no one out there that knows everything. You know, and that's our biggest thing. I guess as healers and as individuals, we've all got plenty to share, but we all need to be very open-minded, and I'm learning every day. Every day. Every day. And I'm lucky that it's a passion for me. So it comes easy, you know. But if you were to say, you come to me and you say, Zane, you know, you've got severe spinal pain, or someone's got head trauma from an accident, then we would definitely start you off on a very mild THC and slowly pyramid you up, sir. So we hit the CB1 receptors in the brain, central nervous system. We would also give you CBD to reduce the inflammation through the body. Okay, and some people that have had extensive injuries, you know, even with brain cancer and brain tumours, I've got lots and lots of patients in Australia and around the world that have got great pain relief, you know, and also the recovery rate that I've seen with something that is not talked about enough, especially with THC, is that what I've seen over the last 10 years is that the recovery rate from, say, brain damage or slight brain damage from a car accident or from a tumour being taken out of the brain, the surgeons will, of course, they'll go inside, you know, with God on their side, they'll do as great a job as they can to save that person and reduce the amount of problems that they cause through cutting that tumour out. And what I've seen is amazing. What I have seen over the years is that someone that may need rehabilitation therapy for 12 months to be able to walk, talk and get around again, the recovery rate is half that using organic THC. And we know that it is really, really great for enhancing the growth of new brain cells. And that's a big line that we need to look at, you know. The recovery rate from injury is incredible, you know. But if we're going to start taking any kind of cannabis medicine, we always start slow. We pyramid up, sir. If you're going to give it, is it your mother or somebody close to you? Okay. So the elderly, we have to be, of course, respectfully more careful with THC. So we pyramid up very, very slowly, you know, and maybe to start off with increase the CBD levels to reduce the inflammation in the area. As well as if you come to me, we would also look at reducing the inflammation markers through nutrition, you know. Nutrition, look, food is medicine. This plant is our medicine, and this is our food. We should be having this on our cereal every day. The leaves we should be chopping up. Yes, darling.
I've got a question when you...
Yes, sister.
Can I ask it?
Of course.
I've got a friend who suffers from regular migraines.
Yes.
And I don't know if MCT oil is a problem or if THC is a problem, because it does seem to trigger it for her.
MCT oil does?
Well, it's oil with herb in it.
So the MCT, medium chain triglycerides, comes from coconut. So it could be that she's got an allergy to coconut. And a lot of the MCTs out there now are extracted predominantly by themselves. And that's, look, I'm a herbalist and we do all kinds of different extractions, and when you start blending things with different compounds and doing extractions, it can change the plant also in many ways. I've never heard of THC causing migraines, no. So I look at what the medicine is carried with. you know. And also when we do extractions, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to extract the cannabis from the plant. You know, different heats and colds, and we have to be careful what we use to do the extraction. Predominantly because that can really down-regulate our frequency, also interfere with our microflora. The MCT is not going to hurt the microflora, but doing extractions with different toxins are going to damage the digestive tract and of course the microflora. Yes, sir, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I stock a MCT carrier oil, Entourage oil, like CBD, but also CBG, CBDA, extracted by alcohol, so it's a bit of a method that it is hitting the mark on most things, particularly pain, and of the one type of brain regeneration that it's working with after a serious brain trauma. I haven't got any feedback about the MCT being problematic. Is that something that you
I've never heard of anybody having trouble taking MCTs, you know. I mean, and whether they're in a whole plant-based form from, you know, whatever plants you want to extract it from, I've never heard of it, but we all have different allergies. There might be 1 in 1,000 that has that allergy or reaction.
You seem adverse to the MCT.
No, I'm not averse to it. It was only a question, sir. Not at all. Not at all.
Just wondering,
No, not at all, sir, no. MCTs are fantastic. You know, I started using MCTs back in the mid-80s. I was a competitive bodybuilder. I played around with the diet. I went ketogenic, paleo back in about 86. And MCTs are something that helps the body to utilise, especially excess fat. The uptake, it helps through the uptake through the liver. The absorption is greater, you know. But you must remember, it's great to use MCTs as an organic compound, but you lose other compounds of the coconut if you're going to use coconut.
that's what I was wondering. So as a carrier, do you think it works well though?
I think it works well, but you've got to remember, out of all the studies that we've seen over the years, the greatest oil, if you're going to do, just say we're going to do just a heat extraction, the greatest oil to use, and it's about 30% higher, is olive oil. It absorbs more cannabinoids than coconut. But I always say, you know, there's more than one God. So if I was going to make just a regular heated extraction to extract an oil, I would use both. Because we want that as higher, as many compounds as oil as possible, but we want that absorption to be great. So the MCT comes into the absorption through the liver.
It's got sunflower in there as well.
Yeah, sunflower's great. Now again, you know, made right, you can make a liposomal form with the sunflower oil as well, once you encapsulate the molecule. So it increases the absorption through the stomach, through the membrane, which is great, especially for lymphatic cancers and blood cancers. You know, so something to think about. The liposomal form of everything is more absorbable, and MCT comes into that, but you need that lipid encapsulation. It's got to be done right. I used to make it and give to my patients off the record, liposomal different forms, and liposomal vitamin C, glutathione, those kind of things. They're great. And you know, getting on the subject of alternative therapies. Has anybody got any questions about alternate therapies? You know, we're talking about pain. So, yes, darling.
I've got a question. Can it be used for simple things like period pain?
Absolutely, yes.
And you wouldn't get high if you... would you?
So, what I would suggest is to start off with some CBD, just some raw CBD, depending on the level of pain also, you know. And when we're talking about that time of month pain, it can be a multiple of different things also. So sometimes we have to do a little bit further search. And we're finding, I'm going to go off the subject a little bit here, but we're finding that vaccinations, the HPV vaccinations, what's going on with a lot of the young ladies is they're having trouble getting pregnant, but they're also having uterus problems and things like that much earlier. And research, if you look at the right places, that HPV vaccination is causing a lot of, unfortunately, detrimental side effects. And a lot of things are going on, especially with the reproductive system that no one's really starting to talk about. But we are seeing a lot in clinic, But definitely, you know, CBD or THC, is very helpful, and again, depends on the level of pain. You may need to take both compounds, but again, pyramiding up and taking it at the right time.
Hey, so it might sound like a stupid question, but if you're on mild dose THC, would it show up in a drug test? Like, for instance, if you're working on a mine, or if you were, even just a roadside drug test, would it still show up if you're not smoking it?
If you're not smoking it, like I'll be honest, my personal experience is that, and I'll be open here, I've been taking it daily for a long time. I sit on about 400 to 500 milligrams of THC a day. Mainly take it at night. I'm still living, I've got a large liver tumour wrapped around the portal vein. We brought that down from about 11 centimetres to 6 centimetres. And that's just through medical cannabis and nutrition and alternative therapies, and I've had therapies all around the world. And I got tested this morning coming in. I came in from Lismore, and I had medical cannabis last night, and of course if we're going to hop in the car and drive, if you say have if you're taking THC throughout the day, my best advice is to probably not drive. As a professional, I can't say hop in the car, stoned and go for a drive, and I'd be doing the wrong thing. But if you're in severe pain and you need to take, you go to work soon, you come home and you've got back pain, and you need to hop in the car in an hour's time, I would just suggest you really think about what you're going to do for that afternoon, just to be safe. I had one policeman up in Sunshine Coast, and he knew who I was, and he tested me 3 times on a lick stick. And in the end, was harassment. I stayed very peaceful and calm and just channeled, and because he was very aggressive. And 3 times, brother, he kept coming back and saying, nah, we're going to get you. And in the end, he came to my car and he slung the license into the window. And I just said, have a good day, brother, and drove off. And I had about probably 500 milligrams the previous night before. I would just say, keep some apple cider vinegar in your car, some organic frankincense, a couple of drops of frankincense, changes the frequency orally straight away. As it will change the frequency, if you put it into the Bindu chakra, it'll raise the frequency automatically. And if it is really pure, clean frankincense, have a couple of drops orally as well.
Did you do that in those 2 occasions?
The time that he tried to get me 3 times, brother, yeah, I took a few drops orally.
What about this morning?
No, nothing this morning. No, pretty much I just live on fruit and veggies. I just had fruit and veggie. Had a fruit and a fruit smoothie for breakfast. Just clean the teeth, rinsed out. I'm here, And those guys in there today were quite calm, quite peaceful. Swab, have a great day. They were quite nice, which is good, because we have had over the years, we have had some aggressive guys that we know, really trying, especially our collective community here. They've really been targeting us over the years, So, but I just say be safe, be careful. If it's whatever it is, they don't test you for CBD, so if you just take CBD, you'll be fine anyway. But if you do go on and take THC, it's best to be safe. Sorry, sir.
I just wanted to ask about the legalization of CBD.
Yep.
As far as I understand, that there's certain amount of milligrams that will be available probably in this year or next year from pharmacists. Is that synthetic? Is that all synthetic, or is it plant? Is some of it plant-based?
So the question is, in the coming 6 to 12 months, what is going to be the level of CBD, the dosages and strength, and is it going to be organically extracted from a plant, the level, or is it going to be synthetic? Look, I'm not up with what every company is doing. What I can tell you is that I was in, I go back and forth to LA a bit, haven't the last 18 months of course, but friends of mine over there, I walked into a shop in Venice, and 18 months ago he pulled out I can't see how it can be purely extracted, but it was around 90%, he was saying, and it was preset to smoke. You know, with the synthetic side of things, I'm not sure where it's going at the moment. I do know, of course, you know, money brings power, money brings greed, and they're just virtually destroying something that needs to be looked at in a different perspective when we're talking about medicine. You know, when we hand something over to Big Pharma, I mean, we're virtually handing over to the devil, you know. I don't believe in synthetic medicine. You know, I really don't. I really don't. Everything that we need is in nature and on the earth. I mean, we need doctors. We need to work together. I'm not going to say I don't like doctors. I don't like, you know, what the medical industry is doing with cannabis. It's good that we've got it out there. We're helping more people. That's all great. But where we go to with the manufacture of it is something that, you know, especially at the moment, I think they're going in some ways good, in some ways bad. We're talking more about it, we're learning more about it. The testing hasn't changed, you know, we've still got Israel pulling compounds out and doing testing for this and testing for that. I'd really love more and more money to be, especially in Australia, to be put into more and more research, you know, on a whole base plant, on a whole plant base, rather than just a compound here or a compound there. And we're finding new compounds and new receptors, and everything's changing every day. You know.
Would it be interesting if they tested different regions as well?
Different regions there?
Yeah, like, you know, what the plant grown here as opposed to the plant grown in Sevesteroles and the plant grown in the Amazon.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Oh, well, I think that is happening, and there's so many different strains of cannabis, you know. And again, it all comes down to, what you're saying is right, it all comes down to what the plant is absorbing in that area. You know, but as we grow smarter with growing plants, there's so much new technology coming into how we're growing as well. Like, I'm not into syntropic growing, which is virtually recognising what the Amazon forest has brought for millennia, copying that structure, bringing power back to the plant, rather than just, you know, getting these compounds and putting in the soil and hope we do well. It's about bringing the right plants together. So the microflora works well. The funguses is like a petrol station. The right funguses, you know, plant life will absorb that nutrients and move on again. And bringing all those things together, even with growing cannabis, is the same. The syntropic way of growing is definitely the future of growing. And then we've got to also look at the plasma energy that we're also working with to grow plants, and that's something new, and that works on vibrational frequency. Combining the right plasma water around the plants, or using plasmarized water to feed the plants, increases the uptake of nutrients in the plant. It changes the frequency of a plant. So the plant absorbs even more sunlight, more nutrients, the plant's happier. What we found with using plasma also is that the heat doesn't bother the plant anywhere near as much. It's better in cold. This winter, one of the greatest plants that we have trouble growing, especially in the cold, is Moringa. I'm a big believer of Moringa. It's a great medicinal plant. You know, it's fantastic. But using the plasma to grow Moringa in winter, where you can't grow Moringa in winter, but changing the fields. So, you know, the advancement of learning how to grow better is just evolving. You know, when we get yes, sister.
Using the plasma to grow, it means nothing to me. Can you explain that?
Well, plasma is I guess, we go through a process of extracting energy from minerals. It's a slow practice, and the teachings are starting to come forward. And there are sites where you can buy these plasma compounds and mix with your water and then put into the plant. So it changes the frequency of the plant. Often, like, if we go down to Bunnings and we buy a non-organic plant, then we know that the cells, you know, they might contain chemicals, they might contain all kinds of things that aren't really healthy for us if we're talking about going and buy a lemon plant from Bunnings and want to grow lemons, and that's fantastic. The way that we can change that plant from being, or closest we can, to bringing that plant to be healthy is by learning that what we think is what we create. So if we believe that plant's going to be, not so healthy for us, then it's not going to be. But the same with pharmaceutical cannabis, but we can do things to change it, and if we're growing it. So learning about the vibrational frequency system is really important, because it's really going to come on big time now. We're going to see in the next 5 years some healing therapies that are going to shock the world, and it's not far away. And if you're interested, you can come and talk to me after about that. So changing the frequency of the human body, and it comes into big time with growing our food, our medicines, just changing what the plant takes in and what the plant allows to give away. And every plant will only take on what it needs, and it's amazing. There's great discoveries in the last 10 years. Plants are actually allowing a frequency, a sound vibration out. They're running a current that's in connection with everything. And when we treat that soil the right way, and we change the frequency, and we love that plant, and shown over the years, especially in some of the countries that aren't up to date with things in a scientific sense, but they're allowing their traditional music to maybe echo it over their temples. The vibrational frequency has shown the growth of the plant without the sound, and with the sound is incredible. So the plants are happier, they're taking in more light, they're absorbing more nutrients, they're probably breathing better, their vibration's in harmony, and that's a big thing. It's a big thing for us as well. We know if we're living in harmony and healthy and happy, we can absorb incredible energy, we can let incredible energy flow, but if we're inside ourselves and we're down, we're depressed, we can't take in much and we can't give out much. The same with the plant. Plant's no different. So when you're growing your cannabis, it needs to be in a sunny spot. You want to make that soil as healthy and high in compounds and all the nutrients that you need, and soon you'll be able to access the plasma to change the frequency. It's pretty much coming available. There's a few sites now. I'm connected with one, and everything is made by a biochemist, and everything's tested, so it's really, really good.
What form does it come in?
It mainly comes in a powder or a water. So the plasma, like microscopic, they look like grains of salt, but they're actually little suns and they radiate energy. And they're just really, really natural forms of energy that's extracted from different natural compounds. Yeah, so it's quite exciting. I was trying to get someone to come in this morning and talk about it. That he's a biochemist, and hopefully I'll get him here next year or to talk about it. But it is something that we need to look at. The frequency of everything, including ourselves. And alternative therapies. Anybody got questions about alternative therapies?
How does pain management and stuff like that go with meditation?
How does pain management go with meditation? Okay, so meditation is something I'm very, very deep into. So if you're a daily meditator, then it is great for getting in touch with the internal body and the internal spirit, and bringing the forefront to having that mind separated from the pain. So I work with a lot of end of life patients too, and our greatest thing that we can do is to teach them to be in the present state of mind, which meditation is great for. But also, before you meditate, the most powerful thing you can do is to practice pranayama. So pranayama is a yogi breath, and there's many, many different kinds of yogi breath. If we were going to raise the energy for that person, so that energy's got to go, that person's got to go out the day and is experiencing pain, you come to me and say, Zane, the medical cannabis is helping, my diet's good, but we're still experiencing pain, we're meditating, how can I help? The greatest thing we can always go back to is our breath. Our breath is our frequency. Our breath is our life. Life is breath, breath is life, So if mum is going to meditate and she's got pain, get her to do some yogi breathing before it, you know. At night time, you do the wave breath, stomach, lungs, third eye, release, slow down, hold breath a little bit at night, it'll slow down the heart rate, it'll slow down, if you've got high blood pressure, it's really great to slow down the blood pressure. If mum's going to go out to the doctor, it's 10 o'clock in the morning and she feels that, you know, her energy's low, and then I would say, you know, and she's suffering with pain, she would do fire breath or Kapalabhati breath, which raises the frequency in the prana of the body, which is a fast breath, and I can show you later after here. Combined with the cannabis medicine and the right foods will help. And that's a big thing too. If you're experiencing pain, especially digestive pain, a lot of people out there got ulcers, stomach problems, IBS, you know, whether it's in the bowel, the small intestine or the stomach. You know, CBD is one of the greatest healers for the whole digestive tract. From mouth to anus, it's healing. You know, and then you combine it with something like pawpaw leaf. It contains glutamine and a whole lot of different other compounds. Then we're healing that internal body. You know, and if mum's had a lot of pharmaceutical medicines, as we found over the years, you know, a lot of us are walking around with digestive problems, leaky gut. You know, the microflora is out of balance, so the immune system's low. And you know, naturopaths and herbalists have been talking about the balance of bacteria in the body for 100 years, probably thousands of years. But you know, the doctors now are coming on board with it and recognise it in the last few years. And again, they're starting to do extractions for different microflora for this disease and that disease, and that's all good. But your greatest microfloras are the ones that have got broad spectrum. And again, this is going to help mum's pain, and people don't realise it. The same thing will help children that have got, you know, ADHD or born with autism or have bad anxiety. You know, combining things to repair the digestive tract, raising the microflora with children, the CBD is going to help incredibly. And balance the system more. You know, once we get regulation of that microflora, the microflora is connected to the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve goes right through the body to the brain. And what I've found, especially with children that are having constant seizures, we increase the microflora. We change the diet a little bit. We add the CBD in, and you know, often some children might need just a little touch of THC if they're extreme, and we see a great difference. And the same with pain. If it's internal pain, we repair that digestive tract. We balance the microflora. We get an elevation of immunity. Our microflora is 80% of our immune system. You know, we know that now. And the vagus nerve is connected to the brain, connected to the production of brain cells and things like that. And with pain, there's always comes, I guess, fatigue, especially if it's extreme. So that's something that we can also talk about, and that also can come into diet as well, rather than you know, living on processed food. You know, we all know don't eat processed food. We also have a whole food diet. But what's a whole food diet? I mean, I eat, you know, if I come to and I say, well, I'm eating eggs and bread and grains and fruits and vegetables and meat. Most people say, well, that's a whole food diet, you know. And for the average person, it is. You know, decrease your processed foods. Incredibly, the greatest thing we can do. The more foods that we eat from the earth is greater. But when we're talking about pain, so if it's internal pain, you know, if it's an organ or surgery or digestive tract, then we need to look at things that don't cause inflammation. You know, and you know, things like you know, red meat causes inflammation. Red meat also you know, makes the body actually creates mucus, and if we're trying to repair that internal lining, then we don't want a lot of mucus to the digestive tract, you know. The other thing is we have to be careful how much dairy we're having, because dairy is really a big cause of inflammation to the body. you know, and it also deregulates our frequency as well. And we know now with the proteins in dairy that the casein predominantly is not just feeding cancer but igniting cancer cells. Through 60 years of study through Dr. T. Colin Campbell. He's probably the longest research nutritional scientist in the world for cancer and diet.
Just a quick question about dairy. If it's yogurt, like dairy, but if it's already made into yogurt, is it okay for you, or is it still considered inflammatory?
I mean, if we're talking about digestive problems, then I would suggest not to have it. You know, some fermented foods are great, but you know we have to be careful. So if we're talking about trying to fix it, the digestive tract, the lining of the digestive tract, I'd say no, don't have dairy. But if we're healthy, you know, a little bit's not going to hurt you. You know, but the fermented foods, you know, I mean, are fantastic. I mean, that's a big part of what we should be doing, and teaching our children to make more and more fermented foods, that's for sure, you know. Has anybody got any more questions? I'm not sure of the time. How are we going for time, sister? 15 minutes. So throw the questions earlier. Yes, sir.
I've been using green leaf for tea for many years, and I swear by it, and love it, just as a herbal tea. And my friends have talked me into decarbo or oxalating it, and I don't like it as much as...
You're talking about just the cannabis leaf?
Yes.
Okay, alright. And you don't like decarbing it? You just like having it as tea?
Different.
Well, I mean, you know, I mean, you know, just throwing a leaf into a pot of tea is doing extraction anyway. You know what I mean? So to decarboxylate it is to bring those medicines live and active before we do the extraction, you know. So just activating the hot water is fantastic. You know, any herb that you have in the tea is medicine, you know. It really, really is. It really is, you know. And the more and more that we do that, the greater we're going to feel we're going to be. And there's, you know, there's some powerful herb tea combos out there now for all diseases and things, you know. Yes, sir.
I was going to ask the summary of your favourite herbs.
Summary of my favourite herbs? Okay. To use, because I probably work with cancer and pain. That's my two biggest things. So our greatest thing that we found out in the way of herbal, or let's say plant life medicines in the last 20 years is the discovery of Sevesteroles. So Sevesteroles are compounds inside the antioxidants of certain plants. And Sevesteroles cause apoptosis like THC does. So apoptosis is pretty much regulated cancer cell death. That's why THC is so powerful for cancer, you know, used the right way and of course produced the right way. Sevesteroles, you know, they're in certain plants. They're in a lot of citrus and a lot of bitters, a lot of herbal bitters got them. So with my protocol, I don't want to push my products here, it's not the place for it, but I make a product that contains moringa, mangosteen and pawpaw leaf. And moringa is a medicinal plant. It's got, I test all my products in Lismore at the university. Moringa is very high in Sevesteroles and attacks cancer. So using the combinations of these plants makes things very different, very powerful. So moringa and mangosteen and pawpaw leaf is big for me. Now the problem with most cancers is that when our immune system aren't getting through the protein, fibre and shell to attack the cancer. That's probably the biggest thing. Our vibrational frequency is low, our microflora is low. Often our mindset's not right. We've got a lot of emotional problems, and a lot of cancer comes from emotional problems. It's one of the first things that I'll discuss with you in a consultation is your emotional state. That's one of the greatest things. And getting back, I don't want to get off the page of different herbs. Combining different herbs with cannabis to fight any disease is only going to amplify. And of course, getting all the right cannabinoids, getting all the microflora components together, and you know, that's where herbal medicine and it really amplifies itself. So if you come to me and you had cancer, we would go through, you know, different levels of THC or CBD depending on what disease you've got. Then we'd look at raising the frequency. It might be frankincense, or frankincense raises the frequency just straight away orally, and it passes the blood-brain barrier, very good for brain cancer. Different extraction of THC if it's brain cancer. We'd use an alcohol extract to pass the blood-brain barrier. We'd also, I would say, use MSM to reduce the inflammation in the brain, especially if you've had brain surgery. There's a multiple of things that I do, and I could stand and talk all day about different therapies and combinations that I could put together. But you know, the greatest thing I can say is that the more pure that we eat, the more pure that we think, and the more purity that we bring together in our life, the greater and healthier we're going to be. And directing back to what herbs are most powerful for cancer is definitely the high Sevesterol plants to work with the cannabis medicine, because we want to have as much disease-fighting compounds in the body, but we also want to regulate the immune system, and that's something that I said years ago, and everybody thought I was nuts about CBD helping boosting the immune system. No one believed me 5 years ago about and I didn't really know how it was doing it, to be honest. I didn't know. Nobody knew. But what I had been seeing was that people that were fighting cancer that were just taking CBD, we were starting to beat things like, I've got 3 patients in the last 12 months, we beat pancreatic cancer with just raw CBD. And people go, what? It can't be, you know, pancreatic cancer with CBD. But what CBD does, it actually, in our immune system, our macrophages and NK killer cells and all that, the macrophages are a big part of immunity, and they allow, I don't want to get too scientific, they allow the NK killer cells to go out and attack cancer. And what CBD does, it actually, and macrophages hold back the killer cells to go out and fight cancer. What CBD does, it actually holds the macrophages back from controlling the killer cells, and those NK killer cells amplify and amplify and amplify and keep amplifying. And that's a big breakthrough. That came about, we only found that out about 2 years ago. And it was one of the greatest finds, I think, in the medical side of CBD itself.
Zane, what about for cell repair?
For cell repair?
Yeah,
so
what do you sort of, you know, like if you want to repair yourself, I've never looked up. So if I wanted to, say, repair myself, I know we looked at all sorts like fasting and stuff, like all the general stuff which we can help.
yeah.
To actually repair those cells.
So when we're talking about repairing cells, so if you're just talking about just boosting,
General health.
yeah, so boosting the immune system, the greatest thing we can do is, I mean, fasting is fantastic, but we have to be careful how long we fast for and how we fast. You know, the greatest thing that we do, and the nurses and doctors, especially the nurses know more than anybody, is that nil by mouth gets people ready for surgery. It helps recovery. It cleanses the body. I mean, these things have been around for a long time, and boosting the immune system, I mean, is something that takes time. And also detoxing the body, it takes time. I mean, you go into the chemist now and they've got a 7-day detox or a 14-day detox, and you go in there and you think, oh, I'll get on this detox for 14 days and I'll be like brand new again. It doesn't happen that way. I was taught by a really elderly herbalist 20 years ago. Her beliefs is that our cycle of immunity works in cycles of 16 weeks, and it takes 4 lots of 16 weeks to cleanse the body properly. Yes, sister?
I'm just wanting to make a comment. I'm sorry, I don't mean to detract, but from your general well-being, cell health, the word that popped into my head is cholesterol, because cholesterol is the foundation stone, and any doctor would agree with this, from which your cells form their cellular rings and you get cell health. It's a cascading system.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to just throw that in the conversation.
Absolutely, yeah. And also depends on what cells we're talking about. I mean, you know, cholesterol's a big thing, and oxygen's a really big thing for the cells. So eating the right foods, as Sister's talking about the cholesterol, not having too high of the bad cholesterol in the body.
I don't know if there is a bad cholesterol. I'm on the theory that cholesterol is good and we should monitor it safely.
I just think we need to really be careful. I mean, there's been that many things come out over the last 10 years of diets, you know. It's changing all the time. Unless you've been, you know, I only know through experience I can talk about. I have lots of good oils in my diet, you know what I mean? I have lots of hemp seeds, lots of flax seeds. I don't eat any meats at all. I eat very little grains. I live on fruit and vegetables, and beans predominantly. But with cleansing the body, it takes time, a long time. You can start off with, say, a 3-day fast, and you can just fast on water if you want, and that's okay. But I would suggest, you know, you want to fast on something that is going to, you're comfortable with. There's no good me saying, you know, fast on carrot juice, and you don't like carrot juice, you know. But I would fast on something, whether it be a herb tea, or, you know, vegetable juice, or I fast a bit, and I find I fast best on coconut water. Coconut water contains potassium, and that's a big thing about our immune system and our oxygen level is potassium. The higher the potassium, without being too high, but the right amount of potassium in the body, so we've got something in the body all the time, then the absorption of oxygen in the cells is good, you know. So our immune system, you know, predominantly our white cells are produced in the bone marrow, and then they go on to the spleen and everything as they mature. So cleansing the body for a long time, so that we are getting the right production, the clean production, the oxygen levels are good. If you know, a lot of people are smoking cannabis and saying, well, you know, I've got to stop smoking cannabis if I'm sick. There's so much research showing that actually when you smoke cannabis, the absorption of oxygen is higher. Have you seen that, Sister? Like, unbelievable stuff that's coming out at the moment, you know. I guess it all comes down to how much you smoke and what you smoke and all that kind of thing as well. But to cleanse the body, purity, and it comes down to water. And we're 74% water, so the cleanest water you can have. Again, the mindset, the cleanest and purest and happiest thoughts possible. You know, that's a big thing. Pure, organic fruit and vegetables. If we can't get organic, get as close as you can. But I would suggest if you're going to eat lots of greens, make sure they're organic, because all those greens are sprayed heavily. You know, that's something we need to really think about. You know, 2 minutes. All right, down to the last question.
It's very hard to have a natural food diet in today's modern processed food diet world.
It's only how you look at it, darling. It's only how you look at it. But I understand what you're saying.
One question.
Yes, sir. Last question. No, not last question. We're getting there. Yeah.
Do you, in having green smoothies, do you believe that in changing the plant into a liquid form that it doesn't absorb as well, or do you think that it's still a healthy thing to I'm talking about stuff we buy. We've got a liquid market near us, and we'll buy extremely good organic vegetables and stuff like that. So, but to have it as a smoothie, changing the actual changing the composition of the vegetable into a liquid, do you think that still helps you?
As long as you're having the whole leaf and you're drinking it down, that's fine.
And the fibre.
It's fine. No, we want the fibre. I was in Mexico in 2015. Took a friend who had 14 brain tumours over to Patrick Vickers' clinic in Mexico in Baja, and I stayed there a couple of weeks, and I was there every day eating with the patients, talking. I done talks there and worked with Patrick for a little while, and that what I want to explain is that the juicing is great, but we must remember that there's a lot of compounds in the fibre that's important. Don't forget that. Because the Sevesteroles we're talking about to fight cancer, fight disease, are in the fibres.
That's like, so it's still, by juicing it, you're still getting this fibre.
Absolutely,
You
yeah.
have to
Yeah.
chew it.
And doing just your natural pressing, you know, as long as it's done the right way, is great too. I mean, juice carries frequency, it carries enzymes, all those great things for the immune system. But if you were to say to me, do I just press the plant and drink it? No, I wouldn't. You know, I like having the whole plant. You know what I mean? I'm very much into whole plant, as much as you can use, no matter what you're using. You know, that way we get everything. You know, and when you're just throwing it into a blender, you know, you're not really losing anything. A lot of people talk about, you're cutting it up and you're doing this and you're doing that. I mean, apart from that, you're going to have to eat it. You know, and yeah, absolutely. And you can throw as many leaves as you can eat on a salad. That's great for you. But often with medicinal stuff, like just for instance, my Moringa powder, to make 1 kilo of Moringa leaf powder, it takes 14 kilos of leaf. So it's very, very concentrated, and we dry it the old Ayurvedic way over 2 to 3 weeks in the right atmosphere and heat. You know? So again, it all comes down to how it's grown, how it's processed, what we're doing. Most of the stuff, and I'll be really honest here, most of the stuff that's in your pharmacies right now in the way of alternate vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and stuff, 95% of those companies now are owned by Big Pharma. I couldn't get my stuff in those shelves, even if I paid them, they wouldn't take it. You know? So a lot of that stuff comes out of China. And I've done lots of testing. I use the university in Lismore to do all my testing for my products. And I can tell you right now, some of the testing results that I've got, just from Moringa or morning Dr. Deb's here, the lead levels that I've seen out of China and India, if I gave those lead levels to my cancer patients, then I would be increasing cancer. Anything from 5 to 15 times the lead levels I've found in my testing for my products. So it all comes back to what we're doing with it. You know, we need to know. And a lot of these companies, they're not. You can't go to their website and say, oh, okay, that's the latest mix of herbs, and it contains this, and this. They're not going to show you that. You know? But if you come to me and ask me to see the results, I'll show you. You know. In actual fact, I'm going to put the latest results on my website because I haven't. That's the kind of honesty that we need, not only in herbal medicine, but in cannabis medicine and everything. And the more honesty we have, and again, you know, more purity we have. So that's all I can just ask. And you know, ask the questions. Don't be shy. If you go to the doctor, how was that grown? How was it manufactured? Is there any additives in it? Have you got a report I can see? Can I go to the website? Can I contact an email? Just be open, be honest, you know. The more education we have, the more we know about what we're putting in our mouth, the greater. Same with our vaccinations, you know. If you're into vaccinations, know what's in there. I don't want to say anything, I'm not here to talk about that, but you need to know what you're putting in your body. Because what you put in your body, it may or may not stay there, you know. It's very, very important. We know, and we're honest, and we feel comfortable what we're doing with ourselves, whether it's cannabis medicine or vaccinations, you know. One last question, I've got to get off.
Deb's not quite on yet. About to come.
Deb's here.
She's just appeared.
She snuck in, she come on the chairs. Yeah. No, that's it, okay. Thanks very much,
Zane,
John.
I'd just like to say, we live in interesting times at the moment. The world of global vaccination.
That's it, okay. Thank you guys. Enjoy the Mardi Gras.